Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. The New Mutants number 2. This is from 1983. And here we have the Sentinels returning here. Cover penciled and inked by Bob McLeod. So, you're probably wondering why so much New Mutants. Well, because what happened was when the Marvel. Okay, so I couldn't start New Mutants until Uncanny X-Men 165. Okay, because I go in reading order. That is when Professor Xavier decides to teach the next generation. So, unfortunately, between 165 and 166, which is the last issue of the Brood saga that we're currently going through. I have a playlist. I have an Uncanny X-Men playlist. I have an X Universe playlist, and I have a New Mutants playlist. So, this story is available on both the New Mutants playlist and the X Universe playlist. I'm doing chronologically the Chris Claremont era of X-Men and New Mutants and X Factor, Excalibur, Wolverine, everything that took place during the 1980s and early 90s. So, anyway, in between those two issues, in the reading order, are the New Mutants graphic novel, and then issues 1 through 3 of the New Mutants. So, we're covering basically the first 3 issues of the New Mutants. The third issue kind of was released right before. Let's see, it was one, two. It was released at the same time as the 167. So we're sort of covering the New Mutants now. So we will be covering the first 3 issues of New Mutants before we go back into X-Men, and then we're gonna go flip back and forth most of the time, because then there's gonna come another part where we have to do like another 3 issues of New Mutants at the same time. So sorry for the confusion, but that's kind of why I've been doing a lot of or these kind of New Mutants are being done instead of flipping back and forth, because again, the reading order, these basically 4 issues, if you include the graphic novel, all go in between. So this the our story is called Sentinels. Of course, we got the same team as prior. Chris Claremont is the writer. Bob McLeod, this Mike Gustovich, Glennis Ween, Tom Orzakowski, Louise Jones, and Jim Shooter. So, all right. And so, if you remember, as I mentioned, I do have a playlist. Something's up here, and now Mirage is, or she's called Psyche during this time, but it'll go to Mirage. I believe it's Mirage. Um, she's basically has a sequence of the Danger Room that was not supposed to be programmed for the New Mutants because they don't have the experience here. Now, real quick, I'm commenting on this beautiful screen tones right here. I love screen tones here. And as she's running through the Danger Room, she's like, "This is impossible. This can't be happening to me." Of course, this is not very good for her. She doesn't have any experience, And she's like, "Oh no, it's still coming after me. I've got to climb higher, faster, get out of its reach." Some more screen tones there. And so she made it. Of course, I don't know why it doesn't keep following her since it's not a real thing. It could have just made it. And so now she sees all this. She can't believe this is all the danger room because the illusion it creates is so perfect, she thinks here. And then she's confused because, of course, she remembers that she was told that this sequence was too dangerous for the New Mutants. She's going to see if she can find a door, but she encounters this creature. Now, of course, if you've been following my Uncanny X-Men, then you know this is one of the Brood. Um, so the Brood says, "Regrettably, youngling, that salvation will be denied to you. I would much prefer to see you host my progeny, but you are too dangerous. You alone have sensed my presence. You alone could bring about my destruction." So, um, I hope you are following the X-Men as well, um, so that you know what's kind of going on here. As I mentioned, this is all done in reading order. So check out that X Universe one if you have any questions. So, all right. And the Brood says, "Therefore, you must die." And so she is going to fall here. And she hits the ground here and lies unconscious. So now we're at the mall here, which was a place in the 80s where teenagers hung out a lot. Malls weren't dead back then, malls were quite alive. And so you can see them coming out of the movie theater. So back in the day, malls were actually inside the. I'm sorry, movie theaters were actually inside the mall. So, and they went to see E.T. You can see that right there here. So, and so they're at the food court, and Stevie tells them, "Enjoy your ice cream, kids. While I phone home to make sure things there are okay. I shouldn't be long," she says. So, and so these kids go, "You guys new in town? How come we ain't seen you in school?" And he says, "We're student next saviors." And he's like, "Oh, that's a big change. Since when do you elite types mingle with us common folk?" And he's like, "What's that supposed to mean?" Sunspot's a bit of a hothead here. And Sam says, "Relax, Bobby." So this girl introduces herself. She's Diana, calls herself D. They go to Central High, and of course, Rain says, introduces herself and says she's Rain Sinclair. They comment about her hair, and they said, "Are you punk or new wave?" And she says, "I'm Scots," meaning from Scotland here. So, um, the kids all introduce themselves. Of course, they are being watched here. So, we've got uh, Henry Peter Gyrich, and then, of course, Sebastian Shaw from the Hellfire Club. Shaw says that the mutants pose a grave threat to the security of the United States and the world, and that's why Project What Awake was established to combat that threat. And so Shaw asks Peter if he believes that the evil mutants want to enslave humanity. And Peter says, "That's a danger, certainly, but it was that boy who unwittingly outlined the parameter of the real problem. 4 children shot from 4 different countries, all mutants." Peter says, "They're popping up like flies." Oh my goodness, this is they. Chris Claremont just created so many mutants. It really did become at a point where everyone's a freaking mutant. Like what difference? So I know that Marvel with the Scarlet Witch tried to make it so that there were less mutants, but now there's more mutants than ever again. So really nothing's changed. Of course, Peter's like, "Can you imagine if Russia had their own mutants? A small country that, you know, mutants. Basically, it changes the power structure. Now, it's kind of funny. I could see the government doing that because I always say those that have power want to keep it, those that have no power want to take it. And so Peter continues, we have no idea how mutants are created, what specific DNA matrix creates which abilities. If we're to survive, we must have those answers, and he's here to provide them. Of course, Sebastian Shaw recognizes Roberto, and his dad is a member of the Hellfire Club as well. Sebastian is in the inner circle, but his father is not. Emmanuel is the name of the dad. But he says that Emmanuel is dedicated to achieving political and economic dominion over the world. He's ambitious. If approached properly, he might well join us. And of course, Sebastian is a mutant as well. He thinks here, if only Peter knew that there's a mutant right next to him plotting their downfall. He, of course, does a little bit of their origin, which we have covered here. So, of course, Shaw points at the Sentinels here, which are different color, and he says that he doesn't think that that's necessary to deal with children, which is weird since Sebastian Shaw is actually the one that builds the Sentinels. And Sebastian asks if he's going to unleash them against the kids here, and Peter says that's not what my directive is. And he says, we're just to keep the project under wraps, and he doesn't need him to corral these kids. And of course, Shaw thinks here, that's what you think. Your plan is about to backfire. I wish to make those children as paranoid as possible, suspicious of everyone save their own kind, so that in time, once Savior has been eliminated, when the Hellfire Club offers them sanctuary, they'll gladly accept. So Stevie says no answer and strikes her as odd because they said that they'd be home. Now, for those of you wondering what this is called a payphone. There were no cell phones back in the 80s, so there were public phones available. For a quarter, you could make local calls. If you call long distance, it costs you a quarter a minute. So she wonders if they went out, why didn't they activate the well, it would have been an answering machine, a record call, probably as it was called early on, but which is now voicemail. So I'm probably imagining things they could have forgotten. There are a million ordinary explanations. Who says anything has to be wrong? Suddenly from behind, you can see that she is grabbed. And so someone is taking her here. It says, stop struggling, Miss Hunter. I mean you no harm. I'm here as a friend to you and your students. Give me your word that you'll behave yourself and not scream, and I'll let you go. There isn't much time, lady, and each second you delay places those kids in deadly danger. Will you trust me? And so she nods. It says here, I'm sorry to frighten. I'm sorry. I'll start again. I'm sorry for frightening you like this. I couldn't risk anyone seeing you. And she says, who the blazes are you, freak? And he says, Michael Rossi, Colonel Air Force Intelligence. By the way, that's Carol Danvers's boyfriend, I think. I don't know how you would say it, but I heard the name from a friend of Professor Xavier's, Carol Danvers. We were colleagues and lovers, she said. That was a long time ago, in a different world, he says. Wait a minute, according to her, you're supposed to be dead. And he says, true. It's a belief that served me to a great advantage over the years. You need my help, Miss Hunter, and this is why. And so, as he's talking to her, here come some, you can tell the government when they show up here. And so the kids are talking, and this guy goes, heads up, cops, they're moving this way. So, and of course, they're federal agents. And so they ask the New Mutants to come with them. They ask if they're under arrest, and the guy says, this is just routine. The kid's like, hey, why are you hassling them? They haven't done anything. Leave them alone. And of course he says, you've got a big mouth, boy. Close it before it gets you into trouble. He says, you don't scare me. He says, you're a mistake. Miss Man, shall we go? And so they want to wait for Stevie, but um, Karma tells them, let's just go. And so they all go along with them here. And Karma says, even if they're enemies, we dare not start a fight as innocent people might be hurt. So they're going into the parking facility here, and waiting for them was Peter Rossi and Stevie. And Stevie yells, "Scatter, kids!" And the feds have been compromised. You can see here. Initiate contingency plan Beta Alpha. That's pretty cool. And so he stuns them. It says here, this is set to stun here. And Cannonball goes from behind and ends up hitting the car, which ends up hitting this guy here. And so here comes the car. Roberto turns into Sunspot, and he stops the car, and Karma possesses this dude. And Wolfsbane turns into a wolf and gets that guy here. Sam is like, but they're the government. And of course, he says, so am I. Of course, these, even though they are government, they work for like a illegal outfit. So Rosie goes, I suggest we retire to Xavier Schools, but suddenly the Sentinels have arrived. And Michael tries to stop them, but the Sentinel knocks him out. And so here comes Sam. It's weird seeing them in blue and gray, but I wonder if that was a color error or if this is just. But Glynis, I can't imagine Glynis Ween doing this, so I wonder if this is just the color that they wanted to make him in. So because they're normally purple instead of blue, and so you see Sam hitting this one here. So Stevie is like, let's go. Roberto's funny. You women carry him to safety. I'll go help Sam. And Karma's like, stop. You have no idea what we're dealing with. Nor do those robots. And suddenly you can see the Sentinel puts, they're going to trap him here. And he's like, he's used too much energy. He doesn't seem to be able to turn, but he eventually does. And he goes through the wall here. And so the ladies are carrying Michael, and she sees Sunspot is falling. He lands on a car, but he gets up and realizes the Sentinel knows his name. So it does seem here that we're discovering that sunlight actually, sort of like Superman, helps him get his power. So he's going to go after the Sentinel. When you can see here, he manages to kind of push him into the mall, and then he climbs on him and tears his head off. That is actually pretty cool here. So you didn't see very many double page spreads back in the day, so it's kind of cool to see a. So Cannonball's gonna attack him, but he uses some kind of it says here Frigibeam to kind of freeze him, and so Sentinel is the Sentinel's going to fly away here, and she sorry about that. Rain says, Shan, it's got Sam, it's frozen him. There's nothing we can do. And Karma says, if he's unconscious, Ron, I fear not. But if I can reach his mind, even for a moment. And so she tries to take over, and it looks like he wasn't completely unconscious. So uses his power to accelerate, and suddenly the other one attacks here. Wolfsbane realizes that Karma is a sitting duck here, And Michael wakes up and says, Rain, get to the garage, find the head agent, bring him back here. If your friend can possess him, we can have him call off the robots. And Wolfman says, who'll protect you till then? My job. Now scoot. So off she goes here. And Roberto goes, I got one, Stevie. I tore the monster apart. Did you see? We've been busy, kiddo, she says, but would you care to try for two? And he's like, God. That's God in Portuguese here. So Stevie's a bit hopeless here, and she says, grab Shan, and Rosie shoots at it here, and so now we're back to Sam here. I do apologize. Normally I read these. It's just there's so many words. There's so much description that I try to sometimes when it gets repetitive or when we get into the parts where it's just explaining how their powers work and inner monologue and stuff, I've been skipping them a little bit. It just otherwise these turn into 40-minute videos. So Sam is conscious now, and Karma's no longer possessing him, but the robot's still holding him. So he's going to go and splatter him in the ground because he is invulnerable while he is in his using his power here. And so he's possessed here. That was the leader, and he's like, the officer here. He's been confessing since we got him here, Kappa. We can't shut him up. And so he's saying he's responsible for the Sentinels, and this guy's taking him downtown. And so eventually, here, he says, Shan, release him. Stevie doesn't feel very comfortable. He's like, you dictated that that was a frame up to get us off the hook. And he says every word was true. And of course, when he comes to, he's like, why am I being handcuffed? He's like, because you're under arrest, dummy. What do you think? Release me at once. I'm a federal agent. So, Shan, like, is he a criminal? And in a way, he's like, yep, he is. I noticed the lettering has changed here a bit, so I don't think this letter was done by Orzakowski. Just seems wrong, but Shan doesn't trust him very well because of kind of how he behaves. Just he's a good guy, but he's not behaving like honorable. So eventually, here we get here to back into the mansion, and they find Danny in the floor, and they get to her, and she coughs here and says, no, you won't get me, get away. And they're like, stop screaming, it's us. And Danny's very happy to see him, and Rain's like, she looks so scared, what could have happened to her? And Sam says, maybe those robots try to get her and the professor too. And she hugs Stevie and calls her out, and Stevie says, you know the rules, Danny. You're never to use the room without a teacher. Out of ignorance or carelessness, couldn't you have triggered the advanced sequence? And she's like, I didn't, Stevie, honest. And even if I did, I was first attacked outside the danger room. Don't any of you believe me? And Stevie, again, the lettering's just different here. Stevie goes, she's describing the brood, basically. Um, and she's like, only 3 people are authorized to cancel the computer safety locks. Me, Moira, and Charles. Moira's in Scotland, and I was with the kids all day. That leaves Charles. And of course, as he's sleeping, the presence of the brood is right next to him. Next issue, Nightmares. So that concludes New Mutants number 2 from 1982. We are going to return to the X-Men tomorrow and kind of go back and forth between them. So this will get interesting once X Factor starts, because then we're going to go you know. So this is why I'm doing X-Men or these X books every day. Otherwise, this would take years to go through. So anyway, like and subscribe. I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.